All right, welcome back. It is now day 13 of the Run It Up challenge on DraftKings.com. Here's last night's lineup. We scored 241 and a half points, which was good for an average night, an average score, a little above average. Finished in the top 60% or so of the GPP. And split right down the middle on the heads up matches. We went 4-3 in the 7 heads up matches. We did not cash in the GPP. So overall, we lost something like, I don't know, $1.20, $1.80, something like that. So basically stayed right where we were. But this was a pretty interesting lineup, and there was only 5 games on the slate. But this is something that I would like to dig a little deeper into, because I was pretty happy with it. So you're looking at the lineup here, and we'll just start from the top and work our way down. Russell Westbrook had another great night. Unfortunately, when you're as good as he is and as well as he's been playing lately, 50 points doesn't get you to value when your price was 12,000 or 11,900, something like that. So unfortunately, he had a great night. And with that being said, like on nights where there's only 5 games, there's only a handful of guys that are going to score 50 points. So the fact that we had one of them was pretty good. Even though he didn't hit his value, I think that there is something to be said for getting one of the highest scoring players on the night, basically no matter how much you pay for him, and it's especially important on these nights with only 5 games. Moving right along, Manu was 5,000, I believe. Yep, 5,000 on the dot. Move this a little bit so you can see it a little better. Manu was 5,000, so he hit 6 times value. That was great. Corey Brewer was one of my favorite picks of the night. 25 points. He was also 5,000, 4,900. So he hit 6 times value. Patrick Patterson was a little bit of a letdown considering we needed 25 points from him and he only scored 14. If you watch the game, he just never really got it going. That was pretty disappointing. And when I looked, and we were doing pretty good with 6 players, with 6 guys in play. We had Len and Patterson left, and I checked it out, and we were looking pretty good. And I was just so nervous that Patterson was gonna kind of lay an egg, and he did. Not good. He just, he didn't take as many shots as I would have liked, and just never really got involved in the offense. On the flip side, Alex Len, I think he was 4,000, so it's another good night for him. Oh, I'm sorry, 4,800. Even still, another good night for him. He had 10.5 fantasy points after the first quarter, so I thought he could maybe score 40 and just have an absolute massive night, but didn't happen. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. He was one of the guys that he was a must play for us. Corey Joseph did his part, and Serge Ibaka, who was a late swap. We had Tyson Chandler in this lineup, and when the news came out that he wasn't going to play, Ibaka was the late swap, and that worked out pretty well. Trevor Ariza is actually the one I want to talk about in combination with Corey Brewer. So this was, I don't think it was a misstep, so to speak, but this is a almost a double-edged sword, where if Corey Brewer is playing well and taking more shots, he's going to be taking them away from Trevor Ariza. They both are kind of these guys who shoot a lot of threes and can eat into each other a little bit. So maybe playing them both wasn't the best idea because there is just a small percentage of the time that they both hit value. If Corey Brewer hits 6 times value and takes a lot of shots, Ariza basically needs to be ultra effective on the shots that he took or he takes, and he wasn't. So only 7 points and only made 1 3, which is not good. Let's see. He scored double digits coming into that game in 8 of 9. So for him to not score double digits hurt us. But didn't he was 60, what was his price? 6,400. So that hurt. That's where we kind of lost our our points, and I wanted to make sure I addressed the fact that it might not have been so smart to play both him and Brewer, although I think I mentioned yesterday when you only have 5 games, it's you're kind of handcuffed into a lot of things. But you live and learn. So that's something that you can look back on and take forward into new lineup construction. So let's get to it. Let's get to new lineup construction. 6 games on the docket tonight, only one with blowout potential, and it is the Clippers hosting the Utah Jazz, where they are 12-point favorites. The rest of them look pretty good. Nothing particularly jumps out at me here. The Chicago Pacers game is, I'm sorry, not the lowest game on the slate. It is Orlando-Miami 188. Nothing too noteworthy here besides the Clippers' potential blowout of the Jazz. So let's get to it. Here are my projections for this evening. You see the first 3 guys project very well, 6.5 times their value and up. Corey Brewer, who again has been great since coming over to Houston, played well last night. He, of course, scores highly again tonight. Chris Humphries is a guy we'll talk about, and so is Zaza Pachulia. So we will talk about all those guys. Off the bat, let's flip this and look at our just highest projected total players. So DeMarcus Cousins and James Harden lead the way. My only 2 guys that I have it over 50 points for this evening. Unfortunately, for 52 points for James Harden would not come close to justifying his price tag, which you're going to see a lot of tonight. Basically, the highest scoring player who would hit value for me would be Darren Collison, who's all the way down here at number 17. So we'll probably be avoiding a lot of these upper guys tonight, but we'll see as we put the lineup together. But there's not a lot of great options here. Moving down, as you saw, Brewer was pretty good. MKG, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist could be a solid play this evening. So we'll dive into this a little more, but just quickly looking here, there's a lot of guys that we probably don't want to touch. Blake Griffin scares the crap out of me tonight. I mean, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin if they both score 42 points, it's not close enough to value, and there's a chance they don't play in the third quarter. This is just not a great matchup considering how slow the Jazz play and how many possessions might be in this game. This is just not. I don't think I can touch the Chris Paul or Blake Griffin tonight. Where's my man Josh Smith? I think I wanted to talk about him. Let's see if we can find him. Yeah, because he scored pretty highly tonight too. So I have him at 38 points, $7,300. Not bad going against Houston. Okay, we'll take a peek at that. So there you go. There's just a couple of guys to talk about. Kevin Garnett, I have projected very highly tonight. Only 24 minutes, but he comes out at 25 points. And his price is dipped enough to make him in play. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's go position by position as we usually do. Oh, you can tell I was already looking at Corey Brewer. Let's start at point guard like we always do and go through a couple options here. So can't touch Chris Paul. Would prefer not to take John Wall on the road, especially if he's going to get the Beverly matchup. That would not be great. Brandon Knight is decent here. So Brandon Knight is way more high risk than I would prefer. So if you follow this, you know that I would prefer to avoid guys with low floors like Brandon Knight has. But the Hornets are, I think, 28th in the league in defending the point guard position. So there's a real good chance that he has a good night tonight. So if there's ever going to be a night we're going to pay for him, I would suspect it would be this evening. So he's interesting. Would need 35 points from him, which, he's capable of doing. He has a high upside. He's got like 40-point upside, 46 a couple nights ago. I mean, he's takes a lot of shots. He's not afraid to shoot the ball. So Brandon Knight is a solid option for this evening. Might have to work him in. Um, okay, so here's Darren Williams at 6,500, and something fishy is going on in Brooklyn. If you've been following this situation, so Darren Williams has only played 20 minutes, 21 minutes. Now, I think 10 minutes is the game that he left with injury. So he had an injury, came back, has played 21 and 20 off the bench. Um, so who has been starting for him is JARRETT Jack, who's been great, who's been outstanding, playing a ton of minutes and racking up the fantasy points to go along with it. So basically, at his current value, he would have hit 6 times value in the last 4 nights. Plus, I mean, he would have hit 10 times value against Boston on the 26th and 5 times value in the fifth game. So I mean, he's been absolutely insane in his last five. But something is super fishy here. So when I say that, I mean that all reports are kind of indicating that Darren Williams will be dealt at some point. They're trying to move him. And what doesn't happen when you're trying to move a guy is you don't sit him on the bench so that no one can watch him play. You showcase him and you hope that he plays well so that he can be traded for something of value. So my concern is not that my concern is that JARRETT Jack will at some point start losing minutes, and I don't know when it's going to be. And if it's tonight, whatever given night it is, it's gonna kill you. If they switch and Jack starts taking 20 minutes a game and Williams starts getting back up to in the 30s as far as minutes go. So I'm concerned. Now, I don't know if that's going to be tonight because I think he's, again, a great option for tonight. I mean, the guy's been stellar. He's been scoring a ton of real points, which is just raising his DraftKings value through the roof. And he's only 5,300. And on a small slate, there's not a lot of guys that have the chance to go 5 or 6 times value. So Jack, I think, is a great play. But I think there's going to be a time where Williams is going to have to get his minutes back if they're going to trade him. So keep it in mind. Jack is a pretty good play, though. It's hard to avoid. Let's see. Elfrid Payton jumps out at me. Okay. Again, a more high risk, high reward guy, but in 2 of the last 3, he's taken double-digit shots. If he gets you double-digit points, he's going to be close to a double-double every night. So I like him. I like him a lot. I'm not sure. I think he could excel against the Magic. I'm sorry, against the Heat tonight. He would be a pretty good play. Notice Trey Burke's price is back up. Trey Burke was at 3,000, and now he's right back up to 4,800. So they fixed that glitch. If you were following along with us, even so, he's still a pretty decent play tonight. Against the Clippers, at least they play a ton of possession, so I expect more opportunity for Burke than in a usual game, but not nearly as good as a value as he was the other night. That's about it. I think, did we talk Darren Collison? Didn't talk Darren Collison, who I think is probably the best option for tonight. We need about 30 points from him, which he's been super, super consistent. Hasn't gone for less than 21 in any of his last 10, and he's been in the 40s 3 times. Real solid upside here. Gets a good matchup, and I like Darren Collison. Let's plug him in at 6,400 in the point guard spot. Let's skip shooting guard. So let's skip actually plugging a guy in because this is not a great position tonight. I actually think it's one of the toughest positions I've seen in a long time. I mean, there's no one. I'm not really excited to play anybody here. I mean, I'm looking at it again. Joe Johnson could be okay. I mean, it gets really ugly really quick here. And I think we're just going to have to guess at it. Harden was too expensive for me. I mean, now we're in the minimum price guys. There's not a lot. Let's look at Joe Johnson. He's fairly consistent. I guess if you're not going to roster Jack, you could roster Joe Johnson because he's going to get the minutes. Not great, to be quite honest with you. Stuckey? You know, if he plays a lot of minutes, he's going to be good. What do I have his minutes for this evening? I got him at 29. Stuckey could be an interesting play. Rodney Stuckey. Let me just check something real quick on this other screen here. Okay. I wanted to see where Chicago actually ranked, but Oladipo is consistent enough to fill up 25 fantasy points. I gotta come back to this because shooting guards are really tough tonight. So let's move on. We'll just basically fill in whatever guy is available at that price. Josh Smith has looked pretty good since getting traded. I know he was only 2 for 7 after 21 shots, which I think he's somewhat in between his first night as a Rocket where he took 21 shots and his second night where he took 7. But he's playing with a lot of energy. He's really hard to pass up. But there is also Dang would be really good if Chris Bosh doesn't play, but I think Bosh is going to be back tonight. I would expect Ariza to kind of have a bounce back game, so I don't mind him there. But the one I really like is Tobias Harris, who is just a machine. He's just a high floor machine. I mean, look at these numbers. Doesn't go below 25. Upside of high 30s, maybe 40 points, coming off a good night. Look at this. I mean, he's just consistent. He's going to get his shots, and that's all you can really ask for is just the opportunity. So I really like Tobias Harris. We'll plug him in. Corey Brewer, you could follow up Corey Brewer again at the small forward position. I think that he's if there's nobody who's afraid to nobody's afraid to take shots like Corey Brewer. I mean, the guy will just jack it, and he was hot last night. The last 3 games, he's shooting well over 50% from the field. Really, really good. So Corey Brewer would be another guy I could plug in there if you wanted to save salary. Or if you want, maybe we'll plug him in at forward later. Kid Gilchrist. Has been pretty good. We would need 25 points from him. I don't love him. There's just not a lot of great options. Don't be fooled by Chris Copeland. Played 34 minutes 2 nights ago, but I don't think that's any indication of what is actually going to happen tonight. If I remember correctly, CJ Miles was sick. Solomon Hill was playing bad. So Copeland got a lot of run, but that's not really indicative of what's going to happen, I don't think. Power forward, let's move along here. Power forward, Derek Favors is probably my top guy tonight. Again, we're not touching Blake Griffin. Man, it gets so ugly. It not only is a combination of 6 games, but it's 12 teams with not a lot of relevant players. Chris Humphries is the guy that you would want as far as high ceiling goes for his price tag. Been really good in the last 2, but is really, really streaky. I mean, just look at it. He could drop 6.5 points on you, or he could drop 37 on you. I mean, he's a really risky player. If you're willing to stomach the risk, take him. I don't know why Kevin Garnett scored so highly. I don't think he's a play tonight as far as my projections go. I think your only real 2 options are Chris Humphries at 4,000 and Derek Favors at 72. Let's plug in Derek Favors. The center position, Boogie's obviously the most expensive, but the guy we want is Zaza. The only guy I'm playing tonight is Zaza. There's just not a lot of great options, as usual. But he's only 4,000, and he is going to get all the minutes he can handle tonight. So Larry Sanders is again out. So it's the Zaza show, and he did it last night, or I'm sorry, 2 nights ago, 36 points. The night before that, 32. He's only 4,000, so we really only need 20 fantasy points from him, and I know he can do it, and his upside is probably more like 8 times his salary. So Zaza's going in at center. So we've already filled out a pretty decent lineup here, and we still have some salary to go. So we ran through the guys. I've got to run. Check out, it's at RickRunGood. I will post the final lineup, but this is a good starting point. I would suggest plugging in the shooting guard position last. You can probably stuff a point guard in at the guard position because there are a couple good ones tonight that we talked about. Also, like Chris Humphries would make a good play at the forward position, and you might be able to even get Boogie in the lineup as well because there are some good value plays. So don't be afraid to mess around with it. Tweet me your lineups. I'll let you know what I think. I'll post the final one. It's at RickRunGood, and we will. The bankroll is now still at $87. So what we'll do is again tonight we'll go $2 GPP and 7 $1 heads ups for a total of $9. We are now 35-30 on the year in heads up matches after a couple of rough nights in a row, but we'll look to get back on track tonight, and I will talk to you guys soon. Good luck.